Hey everyone, Pastor Jared here. We're starting off our new segment called Let's Talk, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to get to chat with you about a lot of different topics. Today, we're kicking off this podcast with something I'm calling Leading Through Crisis. Many of us are facing the challenges of uncertainty and fears for the future because everything that we've been used to has been flipped upside down. Throughout this COVID season, we don't know what the next few months are going to look like for our businesses, for our churches, and even for our families. Some of you right now, you are home with the kids 24/7, and you did not expect to find yourself in the season that you're in right now. I believe that leadership is so important, especially in the midst of difficult circumstances. People don't know what to do. They don't have the answers, and they can't see the future. And if you're a leader, you're a parent, if you're a business owner, if you're a pastor, or if you lead on a team, if you have volunteers that follow you, people are looking to you right now to lead and guide them through the seasons of uncertainty. And so today I want to give you 5 simple things that you can do to lead through a crisis and to lead well. You know, one of the things that we've been facing as a church here in Sacramento is the challenge of not being able to gather everybody together like we used to. We've been so familiar with a certain strategy and a certain form of ministry. Now everything we do is online. And we're a young church. We have an online presence, but I think many of us were taken off guard at how much we needed to invest in the online experience. Everything for us has flipped upside down. And that's why if you're gonna lead through a crisis, the first thing you need to know is that you can't just maintain, you've gotta innovate. You know, I love the verse in Mark chapter 2, verse 22. Jesus says this, "No one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins." You know, I'm seeing a lot of leaders, a lot of churches and pastors be real frustrated about the season that they're in right now because they can't do what they used to do in the past. And listen, I get it. We all want to go back to normal. We all want to be able to have everybody in church. We all want our restaurants and our businesses to be open for normal hours. At the end of the day, right now, that's not possible. And we can either cry over the past or we can look to the future. And I want you to hear me. We will miss out on a new season if we keep trying to preserve yesterday's strategy. You know, there's this famous book and it's titled, "What Got You Here Won't Take You There." And I believe that that principle is so true for us even in this season right now. The strategies that you use to get you into this season are not going to be the strategies that you need to use to get you to the next season. And I believe this. I believe that in this time, during this difficulty, it may not be that you need more opportunity or money or platforms or whatever it is that you think you need more of. I actually believe that what God wants to give you right now is He wants to give you wisdom. You know, wisdom doesn't just come with age or experience. I know a lot of people who've been doing the same thing over and over again, and the Bible would constitute that as foolishness. Wisdom is a spirit we partner with. Wisdom is something we choose to receive when we wrestle through challenges and difficulty and we allow God to download something into our spirit. Maybe God doesn't want to give you more experience right now. Maybe He wants to give you more wisdom. And wisdom comes from accepting the fact that we can't maintain what we've done in the past. We've got to be able to innovate and evolve and adapt. I believe that if you're willing to change, if you're willing to allow this season of challenges to change you, you can come out on the other side of it so much stronger, so much wiser, and so much better for the future than you ever could have if you hadn't gone through this challenge. The second thing I believe we have to do if we're going to lead in the middle of a crisis is we've got to stay consistent in culture. A lot of things are changing right now. A lot of things are changing day by day. But what can never change in your organization is culture. And I think a lot of us, because of all of the things that are changing around us, we've allowed that to change our culture in our business, in our churches, in our teams, in our leadership, because we don't know how to translate the culture we've done face to face to an online experience. But I love this verse in Daniel chapter 3:18. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're facing a trial of being thrown into the fiery furnace. They refuse to bow. They refuse to change what God has called them to be. But even when they were faced with the difficulty of the reality of the furnace right in front of them, here's what they said to King Nebuchadnezzar. In verse 18, they said, even if God doesn't work this thing out the way we expected it to, we refuse to break. I think that it's easy to break in the middle of chaos. I shared this with my church this weekend. I love to watch The Office, one of my favorite shows, and I like watching the blooper reels behind the scenes to watch the actors cut up with each other and laugh and forget their lines and call each other by their real names. In Hollywood, this is called breaking character because the actors are supposed to be playing a character that's not their real identity. And to keep that character consistent, they've got to stay in character. But sometimes things happen that they didn't expect. Something funny is said or they forget their lines. And what happens is when they don't keep the character consistent, they end up breaking character. And it reveals that that's not who they really are. I wonder how many of us in our leadership are simply keeping up character because culture is convenient right now. Conditions are convenient right now. They're comfortable. But when you head into the middle of a crisis, it's really easy to cave or to break character and reveal that the stuff that we were showing to other people wasn't actually who we really are. I want to challenge you in the season of crisis. If you break in the chaos, you will end up diluting your culture. And I think that we can practice our cultural values within the new avenues of technology. We just have to be intentional. And so for our team, what does that look like? When we gather together, we play games. One of our values is play hard. We work hard, and so we play hard. And, every time our teams would have a team night or a meeting, we'd play a game, we'd do something physical. Well, we can't do that right now, but we can do Zoom games on our Zoom chats. We can create funny ways to get people laughing and keep them connected. Our e-groups can't meet physically, but we can do that online. We want to make sure that we continue to keep the character of our work culture consistent. And so we're checking in with each other. We're making sure we continue to work hard. And we're doing everything we can to keep our culture consistent. We don't want to let difficulty change our DNA. And I think that's really important for our organizations, for our churches, is that we do not allow our culture to be diluted because of the difficulties that we're facing. Number 3, I think it's so important that we learn to be a helper and not an opportunist. Winston Churchill said, it's a famous quote that's going around a lot right now, never let a good crisis go to waste. I think that that's a great quote, but I think sometimes some of us take that to a negative extreme, meaning we see crisis as an opportunity to serve ourselves instead of a way to serve others. And Galatians chapter 5, verse 13 says, you were called to freedom, but don't use your freedom and your influence to indulge the flesh, rather to serve one another humbly in love. Notice that he says serving the flesh is the opposite of serving others. And serving the flesh simply means you're an opportunist. Opportunists focus on how they can use a crisis to serve themselves, how they can promote their brand, how they can promote their influence. And there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of different avenues to boost the business that you have or to try to maintain sales or to continue leading and exerting influence in your organization. But I think people will be able to see through a self-motivated strategy and an others-motivated strategy. They may not realize it right away, but over time, they're going to start to notice that, man, you really only care about yourself. You're really just trying to build your own brand or your own business. Here's a thought. Maybe focus on how you can serve other people in this time. People are struggling. They're hurting. They're fearful and they're anxious. And I think that we have a real opportunity to help others and not just to serve ourselves. What's going to happen is after this crisis is over, people are going to know the testimony of how you handled yourself and your leadership in the midst of the crisis. Let that testimony be that you served other people. Number 4, value conversations over content. You know, I think that right now, a lot of us are getting excited about what we're posting online. We've got daily devotionals, and we've got worship Wednesdays, and we've got leadership tips and strategies, and new podcasts, and great memes, and all of this stuff. And we're excited about the content because it makes us look good, right? I mean, let's be honest. We all enjoy looking at our Instagram and seeing post after post being something that people want to see, and they want to read, and they want to watch. But I think that if we value content over conversations, here's what's going to happen. You'll end up with a pretty Instagram page, but an empty church and an empty business. Here's why. Galatians chapter 6 verse 2 says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you fulfill the law of Christ. You know, this weekend we had our worship experiences online, and it shouldn't surprise us that people would get saved and make a decision for Jesus online. But when it does, I think we still are all a little bit shocked that that can happen through an online experience. But you know, it didn't just happen because we posted a great worship experience and we had great lighting and good video footage. It's because our team decided to engage with people in the chat and begin conversations. And I really want to challenge you, whether you own a business or whether you run a church or you lead a team, not just to focus on posting great content. Everybody and anybody can post great content. The question is, are you engaging people in conversations? Are you going the extra mile to message them, to ask them questions, and to start a conversation that would actually lead to life change in and through their lives? I believe that in this season, we've got to value people more than programs and products. You know, at the end of all of this, you can either have a really great social media page with lots of great content, or you can have people who feel connected to you, who feel connected to your business, who feel connected to your church, because in the midst of it, you engage them through conversation. And number 5, lastly, don't forget about you. You know, Galatians 6:8 says, whoever sows to the flesh will reap destruction, but whoever sows to the Spirit will reap eternal life. You know, we believe this for the people that we're leading. We tell people to pray and read their Bibles. We tell them to invest in themselves and go back to school and to study and to read and to listen to podcasts. But I wonder how many of us that are in high levels of leadership are doing that for ourselves. It's really easy to forget and to neglect our own spiritual and soul leadership in the midst of leading everybody else. But here's the truth. You can never pour out what you haven't first poured in. I noticed this in my own life, that when I start to feel empty, communicating becomes a lot more difficult. Preaching becomes a lot more strenuous. And I feel the strain and the struggle because I'm trying to reach for something that isn't there and overflowing in my life. I want to encourage you, if you're a leader, don't forget about you. Don't forget to take time for yourself, time for your family, time for your marriage, time for your own rest and recalibration, because you're no good to anybody else unless you're able to first lead yourself. You know, leading through a crisis isn't for the faint of heart. Leading in general is not for those who are looking for a comfortable life. And I want to commend you for taking this challenge to be able to lead in the midst of difficult circumstances. I want to remind you that you're not alone. You're not the only person that's walking through the challenges. And I would encourage you to join a community of people that are going through what you're going through right now. Maybe call somebody, encourage them, and in turn, they will encourage you as well. I want to thank you so much for tuning into Let's Talk today. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and stay up to date with content we'll be posting every week so that you can lead well and you can live well no matter what you're walking through. God has called you to thrive, not just survive.